Hi guys, hello and good evening. Welcome to another collab. So just waiting a moment or two for anybody else to join, but I can't wait for too long because I've got another collab after you guys. So we need to begin. This has always been recorded, so if you guys or anybody else needs to watch it later or watch it again, the recording will be there for you guys to go through again. Okay, hi. So anybody got any questions before we begin, before I tell you what we're going to be doing this evening? And Jubaira, I know you sent me a message online. I did reply to it. So hopefully, did you see my reply? And then just let me know if you have any other issues, but hopefully that my reply will help you. Otherwise, everybody else good for so far. So remember, always, this is just relaxed, not a formal session. So even though I'll prattle on, you're welcome to interrupt me whenever you need to or want to. Put up your hand and I'll see that you want to speak, or otherwise you can just chat away or ask questions in the chat box, and then I'll keep up with what's going on in the chat and answer any questions in between when I get there. So if you think of anything as I'm talking, type it in the chat box. You can chat to each other there as well, and in that way we can communicate with each other, and I can get feedback from you guys, and we can all be on the same page. Okay, awesome. So what I thought of doing this evening, just to kind of give us a kind of a fix on where we are. We finished with your assignment 1, and in the last collab that I did, which was on the 6th of September, I went through the memo for assignment 1 to give you guys full feedback on how that assignment should have been answered and what all the issues were that the students had. So go and have a watch of that video if you haven't already, so that will give you then some indication of where to go for your assignment 2. So we're now on, as you've seen also from the pacer that I post for you every week, we're now on the journey towards assignment 2. So the due date for assignment 2 is the 16th of October. Let me just write this in there so that you know what we're working towards. And as of today, you have got 4 weekends. I'm counting it in weekends because I know that that's how most students work. 4 weekends left prior to the hand-in date. So if you divide your assignment questions up over those 4 weekends, then that is going to help you tremendously in making sure you've got sufficient time to spend on all of the questions. So assignment 2 is 5 questions make up the paper. The first 3, so that's questions 1 to 3, are from Learning Unit 3, which is on VAT. And then the questions 4 to 5 is from Learning Unit 4, which is, what is the title of it before I get that wrong? What I call your cash books or your cash transactions. So I'll call it the cash books. So if you take 2 weekends, or you probably won't need that, what I would do is take, say this coming week and this coming weekend, and work on question 1 to 3 from Learning Unit 3 VAT, because those are going to be shorter questions, not shorter in terms of the time it's going to take you to do them. And you should not battle with questions 1 to 3 very much. I have been giving you guys guidance on the calculations that you need for VAT. Hopefully you've been working with those and practicing with the worksheets that are uploaded in your more resources under the Learning Unit 3 section. I think it's under slides uploaded by your lecturers. So go to more resources, go to the slides folder, and in there you'll find a folder for Learning Unit 3 where you will find resources, a couple of slideshows, and then some worksheets that you can practice. And in your announcements, you've got those extra guidelines that I gave you on VAT calculations. So with all of that together, you should be able to tackle questions 1 to 3 without too much trouble. And I'm also going to concentrate on the VAT chapter this evening. Just go over some of that VAT work with you tonight. Then, so that will be this weekend, the end of week 8. And then during week 9, then on the weekend at the end of week 9, which will be the weekend ending on the 1st of October, try and use that weekend to do question 4. And then the weekend after that, which will be the weekend of week 10, which will be the weekend of ending on the 8th of October, use that for question 5. Those are 2 quite long questions, so it will work out better for you if you do that. And then what will happen is that you will then have 1 full week from Monday the 9th of October to the Sunday the 15th of October to go and tidy up all 5 of your questions, to do anything that you left out or you couldn't finish, so that you are then ready for hand in on Monday the 16th of October. If you stick to that pacer, then you will definitely do well in the assignment, because you're giving yourself enough time to work on each question so that you can get the majority of the marks for each of those questions. Okay, so that's what I want you guys to do. I will put that up in your announcements as well. I've been kind of guiding you along those lines in your announcements, but I will week by week in the announcements again give you that pacer so that you know on each week and each weekend what you should be working on in order to make sure you're completely up to date by the 16th of October with assignment 2. It makes a huge world of difference if you plan up ahead in terms of your time management spread across the questions in the assignment to make sure that you then finish it in good time. Okay. Anyone got any comment or questions about that timing or the pacer? Does that make sense to you to do it that way? And then also, you guys have got other assignments as well from other modules. So it's always best to spread your work out like that. And then you don't get overwhelmed with always trying to do each module's assignment at the very last minute, straight before due date, because with accounting, that's definitely not going to work, because you need more than just 1 weekend to do your accounting assignment in full and give it the best shot so that you get the best marks. Okay, so that's why I suggest that. Okay, so then let's just go and have a look at a little bit of the work in Learning Unit 3. So everything that I'm going to put up on the screen this evening is in your more resources already. So you've already got that available for you, and you might very well already have looked at it. So just quickly on the screen, I'm going to show you what those first questions are about, first 3 VAT questions. So question 1 is for 15 marks. And this first part of question 1 is kind of like theory questions where you have to answer in words. They're not calculations. So 1.1 should be super easy. You just need to find that reference in your textbook and answer that question. Question 1.2, you need to go and revise your VAT categories. Let me just find that. the section in your textbook on VAT categories, and then you can do question 1.2. It's made up of 4 different questions, 2.5 marks each, and you have to read them super carefully and make sure that each of these items that you are purchasing, so white bread to make sandwiches that they will then sell, white bread flour, which is different to white bread as a finished product. And again, they're going to use the white bread flour to make muffins, which they are going to sell. Then this one is brown bread, also to make sandwiches to sell. And then again, we've got white bread purchased, and in this case, it's to make sandwiches for the tuck shop staff to eat themselves. So all of these products sound very familiar. In other words, they're not familiar, they sound similar, but there are very subtle differences in terms of the VAT category and whether we as a business are allowed to claim the VAT back on those items for refund, and of course whether there is even VAT levied on those 4 items. So we've got white bread in 2 of them, we've got white bread flour in 1 of them, and we've got brown bread in 1 of them. The white bread, in the one instance, we're making sandwiches to sell out of our shop, and in the second instance, we're making sandwiches for our own consumption. So just carefully, I will give you more guidance closer to the end of the, when we do the NSS, but I'm just highlighting these so that when you read through this VAT supply category, you know exactly what you are looking for. And don't forget, for instance, with this white bread flour, you might have to do some online research. That's not mentioned in your textbook, but it has its own specific VAT rules. Okay, so question 1, 15 marks, not expecting too much. There's no calculations that you have to do there, but you have to do some good thinking, especially for 1.2. Very careful. And you need to know your theory. Otherwise, you won't answer that question correctly. Then question 2 is purely calculations. Sorry, yeah, question 2.1. For 13 marks, you are going to, sorry, let me get this back. For 13 marks, you have to do calculations. So we've got from A, B, C, how far does it go? E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. So that's 12 individual amounts you have to calculate. So when you do this question, you are going to refer to that posting that I made in your announcements, explaining carefully how these VAT calculations work. Okay, we've got the selling price, which will, oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. I'm getting carried away here. This particular one is ignore VAT, which means that in these selling prices, we have to pretend that this company is not VAT registered. So there's no VAT included in any of these amounts. So you're going to use for this question the posting that I made in your announcements for assistance with gross profit and markup on cost. And in that posting, I explained these calculations, exactly how you do them and what you have to look for, whether your markup is on cost or your markup is on selling price. And remember, in the post, I told you that when we talk about gross profit, it is exactly the same thing as markup on selling price. It's just 2 different terminologies for the same calculation. Markup on cost is always called markup on cost. So I want you to, if I can say for homework now, while I want you to go and do question 1, 2, and 3 this coming weekend, read through that announcement that I posted, the one that says assistance with markup calculations, and then you should not have any trouble with this 2.1. That's 13 marks, so you should then manage that perfectly. There are also worksheets in your more resources where you can also then practice these calculations, and with those worksheets in your more resources, you've also got the solutions, which means you can practice the calculations and then check the solution to see if you have got the hang of working out markup on cost or markup on selling price. Definitely do the practice first before you attempt the question, because you want to get those 13 marks correct. Okay, so you're going to use the practice worksheets in more resources, and you're going to use the posting that I gave you in announcements to help you with 2.1. And the same thing, you're going to use that same posting and worksheets to help you with 2.2, which is also, and I've explained this exactly in my posting, the answer for 2.2. If the markup percentage of the gross margin is 75%, sorry, what am I reading here? What is the markup percentage on a product if the gross margin is 75%? And show all your workings, and please follow all instructions round to 2 decimal places. Okay. Then if we go on to question 3, and this is your VAT question. Sorry, question 2 is from Learning Unit 3, but it's the markup question. And question 3 is from Learning Unit 3, but it's the VAT question. And I want to also just show you this question today so that you've got plenty of time to go and prepare for this question, because you need to have a real life copy of a full or abridged tax invoice that you have to scan with the PDF as part of the PDF of your assignment 2 that you upload. And take note that for this question 3, if you try and answer it without an actual invoice attached, I am not allowed to mark it, because all of these questions are referred to the actual real life invoice that you went and found and are using to answer the questions. So you will answer these questions based on the invoice that you've sourced from your parents, or you went to KFC and you bought stuff, or you went to Clicks or Mr. Price Home, or whatever, Mr. Price Clothing, whatever you need a real life invoice. You can get it from anywhere. It must be a tax invoice, so obviously that's important. It can be from any kind of business. You're going to scan it in and you're going to answer these questions using that invoice. So again, this is why I'm telling you now, because if you leave this to the last minute and you try and do it the night before the assignment is handed in, you are not going to have a tax invoice lying around the household. Okay, so from tomorrow, you go and look for a tax invoice that you can use for this question. Do you have to paste the invoice in? Yes, you do have to paste it in. So what you have to do is scan your invoice. You can use your cell phone to take you know, most of the cell phones these days have got a scan app on them. And then you will then paste that scan onto your Word document where you are answering question 3. So on your Word document, which is your answer book, you'll have question 3. You'll paste your scanned invoice in so that I can see it on your page. And then underneath that, you'll answer what is the name and VAT registration of the name of the business of the invoice that you found, etc., etc. Oh, it doesn't matter if you put it in before or after. I would suggest putting it in before, because all of the questions you need to refer to the invoice. So I would say it's best to have the invoice on the page so that you can keep looking at the invoice, or I can keep looking at it as I read your answers. But it really doesn't matter if you answer the questions first and paste it in afterwards. It doesn't matter as long as it's there. Okay, perfect. Okay, anybody else got any questions about this one? So remember, heads up, go and find yourself an invoice to make sure you can get all 10 marks, because I have to give you 0 if you have not got a genuine invoice. And the last time we had a question like this, I had several of the students that tried to download an invoice off the internet, and it was an invoice in dollars that they'd got off the internet. I will ignore that because that is clearly not a South African tax invoice if you have just copied some American invoice off the internet. So it has to be a proper South African tax invoice from a business that you've dealt with. Okay, so, and these are, again, literally, guys, when you go through these questions, you'll see they're very easy. Be careful, read them carefully so that you are answering what they asked and you don't misread the question, because the misreading of questions is one of the most common places that students lose marks. Okay, so that is from question 3.1 to 3.4. All of those marks are about the invoice that you found. And then question 3.5 are some calculations again. It's only for 2 marks. I'm sorry, not calculations. You have to just answer. They want you to be able to differentiate between input VAT and output VAT. Which one is a current asset? Which one is a current liability? Which one increases on the debit side and which one increases on the credit side? So this also, I put a little hint in that assistance with VAT posting that I made in your announcements. Okay, so those are the questions that specifically come from Learning Unit 3. Then another reason why you have to absolutely 1000% master your VAT calculations is because in Learning Unit 4, even though Learning Unit 4 is all about learning, sorry, what did I say? Question 4 is all about Learning Unit 4 and completing your cash journals, cash book receipts and cash book payments and petty cash journals. In this question, you are the bookkeeper of Uni Bookstores, and it says here the business is a registered VAT vendor, trades only with other registered VAT vendors, and the business charges 15% VAT on all of its sales, and all amounts are inclusive of VAT unless VAT is not applicable. Okay, which means that you will not get question 4 correct if you can't do your VAT calculations where you take an including VAT amount and you can split it between the excluding VAT amount and the VAT amount so that you put the correct amounts under the correct columns of your cash books. So Learning Unit 4, Learning Unit 5, you can't do those questions if you cannot do VAT calculations. This is why I am putting so much emphasis on VAT calculations at this point in the semester. Obviously, this is going to spill over into your exams as well. Okay, it's being able to do your VAT calculations so that you can calculate inclusive, exclusive, and VAT as 3 separate amounts is absolutely core to being able to enter transactions into your journals and thereafter into the general ledger. Okay, so I'm just showing you this to demonstrate just how important those VAT calculations are. Because in this one, you go through all of those long list of transactions, and then the required is using those transactions, that list of transactions. In this case, you have to analyze each of the cash receipts, under the heading. So again, for 16 marks, you're going to analyze those transactions under the accounting equation, which you're familiar with doing, similar to what you did in assignment 1. Follow the instructions really carefully, and take note that in this one over here, they specifically want, sorry, let me just go here. They specifically want cash receipts only from that list of transactions. So these dates over there, the 3rd, the 8th, the 11th, and the 23rd. So if we go back to this page, what did they say, if I remember correctly? The 3rd, the 8th, the 11th, and the 23rd. Those are the transactions where you received cash. So only for those 4, you are going to enter them under for 4.1. And then for 4.2, this is going to be cash book payments. Okay, so you're going to go through that list of transactions. You're going to identify which of those transactions are payments that the business made, and you are going to fill them in. In this case, this is the cash book, and you're going to use the cash book payments, and you're going to use these exact headings. You duplicate exactly these headings into your Word document where you compile in your answer, and then you fill those amounts in. So where it comes to VAT, remember your bank column will be including, whoopsie, that's too big. Why can't I make that smaller? Let me just go back here. Oh, sorry guys, usually it allows me to do a, there we go, that's what I want. Hopefully that's better. The bank column is going to be including VAT, because that will always be the sales total of the invoice. Then the input VAT is obviously going to be only the VAT amount. And then all other amounts over here on the right-hand side are going to be the excluding VAT amount. So that will exclude VAT, and this, oh dear, sorry, wrong one. And this column will be the excluding VAT amount. So you need to be able to get your VAT calculations so that you can do this. Including VAT, and then you split that into the VAT portion and the excluding VAT portion. Okay, so from that you can see how super important your VAT calculations are. You can't do these questions if you aren't able to do that. Question 4.3 is the petty cash journal. And again, here are the exact column headings that you must duplicate in your answer book. And again, in this case, petty cash column, which is the total of the amount of the invoice that you bought, will be including VAT. This column over here is only the 15% VAT amount. And then all of these columns on the right-hand side will be excluding VAT. staff refreshments, and sundries. But one proviso that I must tell you is you must know your rules about, being able to claim VAT back. Because there are certain purchases that a business makes that the invoice will include VAT, but because of the rules surrounding whether the business is allowed to claim the VAT back or not, in some instances, you are not allowed to claim the VAT back. And in that case, the amount that you put under that column will also be the including VAT amount. And you won't put the input VAT under the input VAT column because you're not allowed to claim it. So your main column will be including VAT, and your expense column will also be including VAT. So staff refreshments is one of those examples, because we know that the rules state that if a business buys goods that they're going to use for their own staff, for instance, pizzas that they buy for their staff to eat, that is considered entertainment, and we are not allowed to claim the VAT back if we pay for entertainment for our staff. So in that case, the amount that we have paid the business we bought the pizzas from will include VAT. We will not be allowed to claim the actual VAT, so we'll leave that column blank. And then the column, for instance, staff refreshments, the amount that we put under that column will also be the including VAT amount. And that will merely be because we're not allowed to claim the VAT. So your section in your textbook on VAT categories sorry. Not too much on my desk in front of me here. Okay, is very important. So that means some of the goods will be standard rated, some of the goods will be 0 rated, some of the goods will be VAT exempt, and some of the goods will be non-allowable. So you have to know, and this is in your textbook, it's an open book assignment, so you'll be able to look it up. For each single transaction, you have to first go and see, is that standard rated, 0 rated, exempt, or non-allowable? And that will then tell you whether you are allowed to claim the input VAT or whether you are not allowed to claim the input VAT. And obviously, if the goods that you've purchased are 0 rated or exempt, there is no VAT in the transaction at all, merely because of the type of goods that you purchased, and so there is no VAT calculation to do. If it's a non-allowable item, there might be VAT in the purchase, but you're not allowed to claim the VAT. And if the item is standard rated and you are allowed to claim the VAT back, then you will split the VAT into the including VAT and excluding columns. So this is why I just want to highlight this, because VAT is not that straightforward. It's not just about being able to do the calculations. It's about knowing your rules. Am I allowed to claim the VAT back or not? And is there VAT included in that particular transaction or not? The more transactions you do, the more you'll get used to which are which, because you'll get repetition of the various types of goods that you purchase, and you'll soon get used to it. So the more examples in the textbook that you go through, the more questions in the textbook that you practice with, the more familiar you will get with those rules, and you'll soon get the hang of it. Then your question 5 is also a Learning Unit 4 question. And here they've given us the cash book receipts totals. So take note, these are the column totals at the end of the month. They haven't given us the transaction details. They've just totaled the columns for us. And then you have to calculate the missing amounts, the 2 bank amounts, and in your own words explain. So that's a little bit of a theory question. And then these 2 questions, and we'll cover these closer to the NSS, are about the general ledger accounts, which are what we call the T accounts. So you have to do the T account for bank and the T account for trading inventory, using the totals from these 2 cash books. Okay, so that gives you an overview of what your second assignment is all about. I just want to, what do I want to do here? I want to go back and share something else quickly. I want to share my screen. Has anybody got any other questions? Any questions about any of that while I'm waiting to share my screen? Anything else? What else? Anything about that that's confusing? Anything that you want to know? Okay, so far so good. Remember, this is recorded, so you can go back and listen to all of this if you're a little confused. It's all there in the recording. So what I want to go show you now quickly is just to quickly show you. These PowerPoints are in your more resources. This is one on Learning Unit 3. This particular PowerPoint has got a different module code on it, but it is the identical Learning Unit 3 in your textbook as it is in that module code's textbook. So you can ignore that code. It's exactly the same chapter as your INAC. Your learning outcomes for Learning Unit 3, VAT calculations and supply categories, your markup and gross margin, and source documents. So this is what you are being tested on in the second assignment. What is VAT? That's just a description. VAT supply categories, you have to know exactly how these VAT supply categories work. And I think these page numbers are not updated. Question 3.3 is actually on page 82. And please go and practice this question, because it gives you a long list of different goods and services that the business purchases, and you then have to decide which category it falls under. And as soon as you know which category the item falls under, you then know what VAT calculation to do, or whether VAT is applicable or not applicable. Very important. So question 3.3 is critical that you know, that you go and do that. Then your VAT calculations, how to calculate VAT on an exclusive amount and how to calculate VAT on an inclusive amount. I've given you a little write-up on that. And this worksheet, the VAT calculations worksheet, is this one that you're looking at now. It is in your more resources. So in some of the questions, we are starting with the VAT exclusive amount. You have to then work out the 15% on this amount, which will be the VAT amount. And if you add exclusive plus VAT, that equals the VAT inclusive amount. So those are those 4 transactions. Then for these 4 transactions, they've given you the VAT inclusive amount. So with this one, you've got to split it between the VAT portion and the excluding VAT portion. You've got those calculations in that write-up that I gave you. So here it's taking exclusive, working out VAT, adding the two together to get inclusive. Here you've got inclusive, you have to split it between VAT and exclusive. And in the third one, they've given you the actual VAT amount, in other words, the 15% value, and you have to calculate the 100% amount. In other words, this is 15% of what amount? And then once you've worked that out, if you take the excluding VAT and you add the VAT, that will equal the including VAT. So practice with this worksheet until you can get all 12 of these correct. You've got the solutions in your more resources. Vital. Where did I? Okay, so just quickly on the screen. I'm not going to go through this, but this is what I posted for you in your announcements. I will also post this document in more resources because the layout of it is a little bit better. When we type announcements, the formatting is not always easy to do. It kind of does its own thing. So I will also post this in your more resources. This page is assistance with gross margin and markup calculations. And then there's a second page, which is the assistance with VAT calculations. So you've got that as well. And then there is another PowerPoint in your more resources as well, also highlighting some important aspects of VAT with some explanations again on your 4 categories with some explanations on that. Some explanations on the calculations that you do with, again, a discussion on that. And then this is a little bit on source documents, which is the third important aspect of your learning unit 3. Here they use a particular invoice as an example, but you can use any invoice. And this explains, again, how you take the amounts on an invoice and you work out exclusive, including, and the VAT amount using the details on the invoice itself. This worksheet is also in your more resources. It's a little bit more complicated than the markup worksheet I showed you just now, because this one includes, it gives you the markup percentage. These ones are markup on cost, and it gives you the cost price. So you have to work out the rand value of the profit and then add cost price plus profit equals selling price, and then work out the percentage of the gross profit margin. They've told you what the markup on cost percentage is, and in this column you work out the markup on selling percentage. And in this second set, they've given you also the markup percentage, but in this case it's markup on selling price. They've given you the cost price, so with only that information, again, you have to work out the profit and the selling and your gross profit margin, which will be the same. This is the gross profit margin because this is a markup on selling. And then the same thing in these last two, they have left out some blanks and given you some other information. These are markup percentage on cost, and these ones again are markup percentage on the selling price. So use these to practice with, and as soon as you can get all of these correct, you know that you are prepared to go and do your assignment 2, and particularly very much so to prepare for the exams. You will need to master all of that for the exams. Okay, guys, anybody got any other questions? Anything else you want to know? Hopefully this has helped you to get going for your second assignment, and you know exactly, hopefully it's going to motivate you to go and tackle assignment 2 now. You know where to find everything. Our next collab is, let me just check, today is the 20th. Our next collab is going to be on the 11th of October. And we have got, sorry, no, it will be on the 5th of October. Let me just put this over here. The NSS for assignment 2 is on the 5th of October. And I will go through, what I'll try and do with that one is find similar questions and then go through the workings of the questions with you. And then again on the 11th of the collab on the 11th of October, we've also got that one to do prep for assignment 2. And then after that, your due date is the 16th of October. So we've still got another 2 collabs where you can ask me questions, we can do questions, we can do prep and do practice for your assignment 2 questions before it's got to be handed in. Okay, so hopefully that will put your minds at ease that you're going to have plenty of support for your assignment 2. And remember, all of the practicing that we're doing now for the assignments and these explanations of calculations, etc., are also exam prep. So just remember that it's all help towards your exams as well. So you will have plenty of support and plenty of time, opportunities to ask questions. Okay, guys, who's got anything else that they want to ask? What else do you want to know? No more questions? Everybody's quiet this evening? Okay, guys, so remember, I'm always here for you for questions. Just send me a message via Learn, and I'll pick it up and answer you. And we've got plenty of time still to prepare. Okay, no more questions. Awesome, guys. That's good. I don't know, the guys that hopefully everybody has found this helpful. And remember, if there is anything specific that you want me to cover in a future collab, a specific question that you're battling with, let me know in an email or in a message beforehand so that I can prepare and I know what it is specifically that you guys want to have a look at. Okay, guys, so I'm going to stop the recording here and